Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Dennis Ward.
And I'm Melissa Ridgen.
Family and friends of Christopher Dwight Beaulieau McIvor gathered on Tuesday evening for a vigil to honor the teen. It's been 3 days since the 17-year-old was shot and killed in a Winnipeg home.
A 15-year-old boy was charged in connection with his death, but as Brittany Hobson reports, the family is still left with more questions than answers.
Braving the early signs of winter, approximately 40 people came together outside this Winnipeg home to say goodbye to Christopher Dwight Beaulieau McIvor. Family members embraced each other and shared stories of the boy affectionately known as Teddy. But for some, it was too much to handle.
My daughter Wanda's not here because she can't believe that Teddy's gone.
Marilyn Davis remembers her grandson as someone who enjoyed hanging out with family and friends. The 17-year-old was shot and killed in this West End home early Saturday morning. Police charged a 15-year-old boy with manslaughter, among other offenses. Davis says Teddy was in Child and Family Services at the time of his death.
Teddy was 17 years old. He would have been 18 in April. He had siblings. He had a life. He was not protected. You think that when children go into care, they're safe. I thought my Teddy was safe.
Ouellette McIvor is a family member. She says they are struggling to understand what happened.
One of the questions I want to ask is, how did this young Indigenous man get to this location? Well, he was in the care of Child and Family Services. Where was his foster family?
Given that Teddy was in foster care, the family is calling for an inquest into the circumstances around his death.
Questions we need to ask, and we need answers to moving forward.
Winnipeg police say the accused and the victim knew each other and don't believe it was a targeted shooting. A funeral is planned for this weekend. Brittany Hobson, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
The ongoing meth crisis was the focus of a summit held in Winnipeg today at the office of Liberal MP Robert Falcon Ouellette. Among the attendees were various organizations such as Siloam Mission, Salvation Army, and Winnipeg Child and Family Services. The major topics being addressed at the summit included safety, health, and education. The summit was closed to the media, but Ouellette did speak to APTN after the meeting to tell us what he hopes can be accomplished from the gathering.
For me, it's a day about listening, about understanding, about learning, and then trying to find a consensus also among the group and about what I should be saying to the federal government, what I should be saying to the health minister. How do I actually be that voice in Ottawa trying to get those resources that we require to be successful?
Quebec's travel and court system has been beset with problems for years. Today, the Quebec Inquiry heard from some of the people who work within it and pushed them for change. Tom Fenario has the story.
These Inuit prisoners have just flown 2 hours south from their home in Nunavik. They now face a 1-hour bus ride to the jail that houses them. These men have not been convicted yet. They are being detained until their trial is over. Because there is no detention center in their region, they are held here, over 1,000 kilometers from home. They will sometimes travel back and forth a half dozen times for over a year before a verdict is reached. This is the reality of justice for Inuit in Quebec, who since 2010 represent 3% of all criminal charges in the province, even though they make up 0.2% of the population.
We want to be ready for everything. We want to have all the solutions, but I don't have any explanations, rational explanation to give you for those numbers.
Wednesday, the Quebec Inquiry into Indigenous Relations asked representatives of the province's prosecutors and defense attorneys what needs to be done to speed up justice in Nunavik. The witnesses testified that more staffing has not had an effect.
Attorneys, we have 4 times more than before. We increased a lot the resources, and in spite of all that, the problem continues to increase. This is the observation that we're seeing, and the limits are maybe of justice. Justice cannot resolve everything.
Last year, Nunavut's crime rate was astronomical. There was almost 1 criminal incident per person. But the Commission has heard in the past that many of these charges come from a breach of probation conditions, which often includes prohibition on drinking alcohol. Commissioner Jacques Vien implored the witnesses to consider alternative measures rather than further imprisoning people with addiction issues.
Okay, so then you'll have to understand that I will have to ask you to reflect very profoundly with other intervention workers, other participants. You have to find something that will be a little bit more appropriate.
This 2016 Quebec Ombudsman report called for sweeping changes to justice in Nunavik. Among the solutions proposed, to reduce travel and speed up travels via video conferencing. But as the inquiry heard, video conferencing is yet to be properly set up in men or women's prisons.
Maybe I'm repeating myself here, but we're in 2018. Technology has been very developed. Technology, and we don't live in the Middle Ages anymore. There are people who are suffering from these delays, who are subjected to injustices because of these delays, and this has been related or told us on multiple occasions.
Testimonies will continue here until the end of the week. Tom Fenario, APTN National News, Couche-Rapid, Quebec.
APTN News has learned the federal government's Indigenous rights framework legislation will not be coming before the end of the year. Last February, the Prime Minister promised legislation that would recognize Indigenous rights and put them into action. While supported by some Métis groups, many First Nation leaders raised concerns about being rushed and what the framework would actually mean. Former AFN National Chief Candidate Russ Daibo has opposed the legislation since day one. He says this is only a delay and not a complete reset. Daibo says the grassroots campaign needs to be stepped up to convince the federal government to acknowledge their mistake in conducting, quote, a secret top-down approach. The federal government says it remains committed to advancing the framework.
Time for a quick break, and then we'll take you to the signing of an agreement more than 100 years in the making.
But first, here's a look at Thursday's weather forecast. Starting on the East Coast, 0 with sunny skies in Halifax, snow, and 0 for St. John's. -7 and snow for Happy Valley Goose Bay, 0 for Cartwright. -7 and sunny for Chibougamau, Saguenay, and Quebec City. +1 with a rain-snow mix for Sarnia, London, and Toronto. +2 and snow in Thunder Bay, 0 in Kapuskasing. -17 for Puckatawagan, -8 in God's Lake and Norway House. +1 in Winnipeg, 0 for Gimli, Brandon, and Dauphin. 2 above with snow in Regina, 0 for Saskatoon. -3 in Meadow Lake, -19 for Stony Rapids.
In 1899, the Cree people near Lubicon Lake in northern Alberta were excluded from the signing of Treaty Number 8. Now, the descendants of that band have signed an agreement with the federal and provincial governments. Its members hope will bring them into the 21st century. Here's Chris Stewart.
The community of about 640, about a 5-hour drive north of Edmonton, gathered at the Little Buffalo School for a ceremonial signing of an agreement they hope will improve their lives. Under various leaders, the people from this area have been trying to get some form of compensation from governments for missing out on the signing of Treaty 8. The community that once roamed over the entire northern part of Alberta reached an agreement last month that leaves them with about 246 square kilometers of land. The upside is the band will receive $113 million, 95 from the federal government and 18 from the province. The federal government is also paying $8 million in negotiating costs. On top of that, about $250 million from the federal government is earmarked for new housing, roads, a health center, and a new school. Billy Joe Labacan is chief of the Lubicon Lake Cree First Nation.
And it's only appropriate that we're here in Little Buffalo School because of whatever we're doing here today impacts all of these students. You know, all of the children that are going to school here, all of the children that have yet to be born. So that's the exciting part.
Chief Billy Joe has reminded us the Lubicon Cree are taught to look 7 generations into the future. Today, we hope that your ancestors, 7 generations behind, will also look down and be proud of the steps that you have taken and that we have taken together to ensure that your future looks brighter. Hope restored, a community renewed.
And the community here needs it. The school, health center, and band office are in temporary buildings. Most of the housing is in desperate need of repairs or replacement.
At least half of the homes here still have outdoor toilets. A lot of the houses, if you drive around, are still moldy. So we've done a few replacement homes with septic tanks and cisterns, but that's only an interim measure. So this claim then will have pipe services, so that gasification. So there'll be a drastic improvement.
Alberta Premier Rachel Notley also made the trip to Lubicon Lake.
We now get to move forward, and we get to do all those great things, building a better, stronger relationship, building a better and stronger community here, and building a better and stronger demonstration of reconciliation.
Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Little Buffalo, Alberta.
We now go to the small Innu community of Hequanshit, located on Quebec's North Shore. APTN's Danielle Rochette was there this week and has this story on adapting for agriculture.
Are higher than ever. The flora and the fauna are changing. Consequences of an era of transformation, affirm the Innu elders. 4 years ago, a young Innu family decided to take action to adapt to climate change and become self-sustainable all year round. They created in the Innu community of Maliotenam, Ocean's Secret Gardens. It's in honor of their 8-year-old daughter and all future generations.
Well, we have greenhouse for tomatoes, cucumbers, peppers, and we got like fruit trees, fruit bushes. We got like here we got for vegetables parts where we have a strawberry field, and yeah, that's we want to make diversity.
The challenges were great, but the biggest issue was to adapt the soil to produce.
The ground here, the soil is not made for agriculture, so we had to really work on it. It's actually like, because soil is something alive, so we had to feed it in order for him to feed the plants. So like we had to really work on adding organic material on it.
During the Sustainable Development event, Léo Saint-Onge had a message for the Innu communities.
C'est important de changer un peu le mode de vie traditionnel, d'aller vers aussi la permaculture pour que nos jeunes générations futures puissent avoir toujours des choses à manger, de se garder comment je dirais ça, des jardins de proximité. Plus que les communautés vont en faire, plus que ça va leur aider à bien passer à travers de cette crise.
To the garden named after her, Oceane is learning a lot about agriculture and is developing a healthy lifestyle.
Au début, je mangeais beaucoup de sucre, mais ma mère m'a appris que les légumes, c'était vraiment plus bon pour ma santé. Fait que depuis ce temps-là, je mange beaucoup plus de légumes qu'avant.
Besides growing fruits and vegetables and providing the Innu community with healthy food, the Saint-Onge family plans for a school garden and a community kitchen to get community members more involved. Danielle Rochette, APTN National News, Maliotenam, Quebec.
It's a few days since the North Mart store in Iqaluit was destroyed by fire. Now, an organic farmer from Southern Climes is doing what he can to fill the food gap left behind. CTV's Joanne Schnur picks up the story.
That's a beautiful russet potato right there.
It's time-consuming sorting through every potato in all of these bins, but it's clear Mike Milsom takes pride in his produce.
There's no seconds going up north, that's for sure.
Milsom farms this land, growing organic produce that he delivers to restaurants and local residents in the Ottawa area. His next delivery, though, is a doozy. Last week in Iqaluit, the city's largest store went up in flames. The warehouse connected to the North Mart store is where all the food from cargo ships is stored.
They've had a setback.
Enter Mike Milsom and his potatoes. Milsom has been delivering fresh produce weekly to Ouellette. This delivery will be a donation.
My own emotional response to the events that happened with the fire and everything was this is where the potatoes need to go. We are unfortunately at the tail end of our season, so this is all I have left, or I would be shipping a whole lot more.
Each of these bins holds about 50 pounds of potatoes. The plan is to ship all of these, about 2,000 pounds, up north. One of Milsom's local customers has set up a GoFundMe page to help make this happen.
The idea was to help reimburse Mike for the cost of the food that he put in the ground.
Milsom is hoping to ship the spuds out tonight on First Air, but that airline says it's at maximum capacity at the moment. Once we have the capacity available, they said in a statement, we'll be more than happy to look at ways to continue to support the community of Ouellette with those who want to help. Milsom isn't letting that deter him.
We'll see how it goes.
He's confident his potatoes will find themselves on a plate in Ouellette. Joanne Schnur, CTV News.
Today on In Focus, we discuss the racial profiling that goes on in retail shops, malls, and restaurants. We heard many stories on social media of people being followed around stores or noticed staff keeping an eye on them while they're browsing, or often as well being ignored by staff outright.
Consumer racial profiling is when you walk into a store and someone is following you, and it's the assumption that the person that's either in the store or going into the bank, usually racialized, black or indigenous, is going to do something wrong. Whether a security threat or the individual is going to steal something from the store. So there's different schools of thought. I have sort of expanded out consumer racial profiling in the definition to also look at issues of gender and appearance, because it's often not only the assumption that somebody's a threat, but it's in the way you get treated. And not just about people assuming that you're going to steal, it's about the lack of contact, the lack of respect that's afforded to the individual that's come into the store to purchase an item, where you're either looked over or looked through.
The people of Calgary have spoken. We'll tell you what that means for a Canadian bid for the Winter Olympics.
That story and more still to come, but first here's a look at the rest of Thursday's weather forecasts. Introducing the APTN National News app for iOS and Android. Get instant access to the latest stories, news, and opinions from First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities from across the country. Receive breaking news notifications and share APTN news stories with your friends and family. The APTN National News app. Download it now for free on the App Store and Google Play. Picking back up in northern Alberta, -12 with snow for Fort Chipewyan, -9 in sunny skies in Fort McMurray, +9 under the sun for Medicine Hat, 6 above in Lethbridge, 12 with rain for Victoria and Tofino, -11 and snow in Fort Nelson, +4 with a rain-snow mix for Smithers. In the Yukon, -19 for Dawson and Rock River, -27 in Old Crow, -11 for Fort Liard and Trout Lake, -14 and snow in Sax Harbor and Inuvik. In Nunavut, -32 for Baker Lake, -28 in Chesterfield, 31 below for Whale Cove, -27 in Joe Haven. Welcome back. A Mohawk man from Six Nations in Ontario has been recognized for his influence and impact in sports. Greg Henhock is one of 45 coaches and administrators from across the country to be honored by the Coaching Association of Canada. We spoke to Coach Henhock earlier. Greg, congratulations on receiving the Coach Developer Award. What does this recognition mean to you?
This award is really an acknowledgement of the voice of Indigenous people across Canada and actually North America, including the U.S. My delivery style when I'm delivering workshops is definitely rooted in what I've learned from my grandparents, my parents, my ancestors. So it's really an acknowledgement of the way that I deliver, which is quite different than the normal delivery methods for workshops and and courses. So it's really that our voice is, I suppose, almost finally being heard for Indigenous people, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. So, yeah, I'm really pleased that it's actually. I'm honored that it was actually. I didn't know I was nominated, so it was a big surprise. But also, like I said, I think it's a really huge acknowledgement of our voice.
Greg, you've been involved in coaching a number of sports, including basketball, field hockey, badminton. Why are sports so important to you?
My family was always involved in sports, and I think there was just never a question that I was going to be doing sports growing up. I learned to skate when I was 3 years old. I wanted to be able to play hockey. I started when I was 5. My parents, my aunt is in the Canadian Sports Hall of Fame for softball. She also just had a display at the Canadian Hockey Hall, or the Hockey Hall of Fame in Toronto as well, because she was probably one of the first Indigenous women to be amazing at it. It's too bad that the Canadian Championships didn't exist for her, because she was, I think 42, they had her go to the championships, and she was the champion, and that's my Aunt Bev Beaver, my dad's younger sister. But just being involved in sport and being active, obviously, I was like all the other my neighborhood friends, that we were outside all the time playing. We were playing lacrosse, we were playing softball, we were organizing ourselves. We used to play a kind of like a broom ball on a field near our school, which was about mile and a half, or about a mile down the road from my house. And people actually used to stop and marvel at the fact that we were so organized, our little neighborhood of kids. So it was just part of what we did, it's that we played sports.
Well, Greg, it's quite an achievement, and again, we wish you congrats and appreciate you taking some time to join us here.
No problem. Thank you.
And we'd like to hear what you think. Here's how to continue the conversation. Send your emails to news@aptn.ca. Find us online at aptnnews.ca and on youtube.com/aptnnews. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest Indigenous news.
Calgary's bid for the 2026 Olympics is over after Calgarians voted no in a plebiscite on Tuesday. Just over 56% voted against the bid. Former community leader Michelle Robinson says it's a missed opportunity for the city to include Indigenous youth in sports and to incorporate Truth and Reconciliation Commission's calls to action in sports.
Maybe people were just unaware that that was an issue. And, out of a lot of the issues that we talk about focusing on Indigenous, that sometimes something like sports could be left behind, or other, arts that matter, that really matter.
That's your APTN National News for this Thursday. Of course, you can find more over on our website, aptnnews.ca.
And that's also where you will find today's episode of In Focus, where we discuss the awful experiences Indigenous people have just while trying to shop. You can also watch an encore edition of In Focus tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central Time. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Good night.
And I'm Dennis Ward. Have a great night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Wednesday,